Hey everybody, what is going on? Maxx here with another Master Duel video for you guys today. We are here at the start of Season 6. Well, at least at the time that I'm recording this. At the time this is going out, I believe it's probably the 3rd. But, yep, for me, right now, it is the start of Season 6. We are just a few hours into it at this time. And I've already managed to grab quite a few good games on my climb up. I'm currently just at Platinum 3 right now. Again, maybe... how many hours? What, 6 hours out from the beginning of Season 6 now? Yeah, I mean, I want to spend the next few days laddering like I would normally would, just trying to climb up to Diamond 1. And I will still try to do it in a timely manner, but I'm thinking this season, like, just because of stuff, you know, going on IRL and also just, in the interest of not being too fatigued on Master Duel, I'm not going to try to, like, do a super fast climb, like, as fast as I can, like I normally do. This season's going to be a bit more laid back. That said, I definitely still expect to be at Diamond 1, you know, within the first week, if I had to guess, just at the rate I'm currently going and plan to go. But, yeah, like I said, just mostly in the interest of, not conflicting with my schedule and also not getting fatigued. Like I said, I won't be climbing super duper quickly, but we'll still try to get there in a reasonable amount of time. So, the first set of games I've got to show you guys are going to be with Tri-Brigade Zoodiac here. We got some pretty good games, like I said, although, like, the title and thumbnail that I'm planning at least kind of imply, we ran into a lot of decks that were using kaijus, mostly, well, I don't think mostly Numerons, but it was like Numerons and I think there was a Danger Kaiju in there, maybe. But, you know, suffice it to say, there's a lot of kaijus running around on the ladder right now, which makes a lot of sense given how popular and how prevalent Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer is. I'm sure if you were to break down all of the most played cards since the, what was it, the 9th that the new set came out, yeah, this is probably the most played single card in the meta right now, is good old DPE here. So, of course, like I said, it makes sense why we would see a lot of kaijus running around, because it's one of the better counters to destroy Phoenix Enforcer, as it doesn't really allow the opponents, or I guess in this case you, if you're the one getting kaiju'd, it doesn't really allow you an opportunity to, like, use your DPE at all, because, you know, even if we just pop our own cards, as long as we can get the DPE in the graveyard, it can at least come back the next turn. But if our DPE gets distributed by a kaiju or like a Nibiru or something, then it will not be coming back. So definitely important to keep that in mind. So yeah, like I said, we got a few games to show off, and I think all but one or the other. I think all but one. I actually don't remember, but suffice it to say, most of our games here are going to feature our DPEs getting kaiju. But this is also a good opportunity to show how to play around that scenario if it happens. And again, if the ladder you guys are playing against is anything like the ladder I've been playing against tonight so far, that will not necessarily be an uncommon occurrence. So this is still the same list from our deck profile yesterday. Yes, yesterday, I believe. And yep, no changes. Oh, no, I'm sorry, there is a change. I knew there was a change. There's Appaloosa. I decided to actually put in Appaloosa over Racevogger. It was a last minute change as I started to climb here tonight. Well, it was actually at the beginning of the night, but I did make the change just tonight. And the main reason that I did it was just because, like, I've seen enough comments, and also, not just in my comment section, but also, like, on the Discord and on the subreddit, of people saying how, you know, Appaloosa just tends to come up more often for them than Racevogger. Well, it's not even necessarily about how often it comes up, but one factor I had not really considered when taking out Appaloosa, that I saw like a couple people make this point, which is pretty good, is that Appaloosa is still good to keep, because sometimes it is still better to go into an Appaloosa than a DPE. I think most of the time it's generally better to combo into DPE, but if you're playing a hand, like, it can just really just depend on the hand. And sometimes we do open Fusion Destiny, and sometimes we can potentially Appaloosa and DPE, you know. It doesn't really happen too often that way, because typically if you're making Appaloosa, you want to use Boarbow to get the Revolt, and then if you do that, you can't summon DPE because you can only summon Tri-Brigade monsters for the rest of the turn. But there are the rare occasions, and there's also the rare occasion where Appaloosa is useful beyond turn 1 as well. But yeah, I'm going to be trying this out, and I haven't been too disappointed. I think I actually have gone to the Appaloosa a couple of times, and there weren't really any scenarios where I was like, okay, I need Racevogger here. The only scenario where you really need Racevogger is like very, very niche. Sometimes that's your out to DPE, but that doesn't really come up very often at all. The other kind of niche scenario where you might need Racevogger is if you need to quickly go into an access code and you only really have one Tri-Brigade effect to do so. But again, that's also a fairly niche scenario. So yeah, I'm going to try out the Appaloosa. And like I said, it's been working pretty decently for me so far. So thank you for those suggestions. By the way, you know, I say it like every video because I mean it. And I you know, want to get the point across every video that I do love getting your guys' feedback, you know, in the comment section down there. So definitely drop some comments if you have any suggestions for the deck, for the gameplay, or just in general about videos you want to see, just anything about the channel, really. I am always open to the feedback there. So let's go ahead and break down the list card by card and then watch some of these games from the start of Season 6 here. We've got 3 Tri-Brigade Nervall, 3 Maxx, 2 Tri-Brigade Kerass, 3 Tri-Brigade Kitt, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 1 Destiny Hero Celestial, 1 Zoodiac Whiptail, 1 Zoodiac Thoroughblade, 1 Zoodiac Ramram, 2 Tri-Brigade Fraktall, 1 Destiny Hero Dasher, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, and then we've got 2 Fusion Destiny, yeah, there we go, 2 Fusion Destiny, 1 Lightning Storm, 3 Fire Formation Tenki, 2 Call by the Grave, 2 Crossout Designator, 2 Forbidden Droplet, 2 Infinite Impermanence, and 2 Tri-Brigade Revolt. Now down here in the extra deck, we've got 1 Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, 1 Zoodiac Drident, 1 Zoodiac Boarbow, 1 Zoodiac Chakanine, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Salamangreat Almirage, 1 Protoplant Vert Anaconda, 1 Ancient Warrior's Oath Double Dragon Lords, 1 Tri-Brigade Farigite the Baron Blossom, 1 Tri-Brigade Bearbrum the Rampant Rampager, 1 Tri-Brigade Rugal the Silver Sheller, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, 1 Access Code Talker, and then finally 2 Tri-Brigade Sherrig the Ominous Omen. So there are still a couple of changes to the deck that I do have in the back of my mind that I've not committed to yet, but like I said, I have definitely been committing and just kind of like watching when these cards come up to see if I like these changes. The 2 changes I'm kind of thinking about are dropping the Lightning Storm for the Infinite Impermanence. I do still like having the like 2 kind of back row hitting options. Like just, you know, these 2 cards are generally just really good going second. I really like the versatility of Lightning Storm still, not only in its own effect, but also in its ability to be used with Crossout Designator. It makes Crossout Designator a little bit more versatile as well. Like you can set Designator with a whole bunch of back rows, and then whether they Feather Storm or Lightning Storm you can counter either. So the card I think I would drop for, or the card I think I would add if I was to drop Lightning Storm would probably be the 3rd Infinite Impermanence. In order to play against Sword Souls better, because obviously we're seeing quite a few Sword Souls on the ladder as well, and Imperm, if you're going second, is a really good card to have against them. I mean, it's just going first too, it's just generally a pretty good effect to have against them. The other change I've kind of been considering is dropping Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion for DD Crow. The cards do serve pretty similar functions, and DD Crow is a bit more on a theme with this deck being a tri-type. But I think the main reason I'm keeping Ghost Belle right now is, again, kind of versatility in the form of Crossout Designator, because there are still quite a few people teching Ghost Belle. Still a really good card right now, and it's not only good to cross out against our DPE, but Ghost Belle is also really good against Revolt, like really good against Revolt. So just, I generally like having the Ghost Belle in the deck, obviously not only as a tech in of itself, but again, as a tech option for Crossout Designator. So I feel like while playing the Designators, it's better to play like a variety of cards well, I mean, it would still, you know, be playing the same amount of variety of cards if I dropped Ghost Belle for DD Crow, but Ghost Belle obviously tends to see a little bit more play in this meta than DD Crow does. But yeah, like I said, with the Crossout, you're kind of incentivized to play in a variety of answers so that you can also answer a variety of cards. But and like, yeah, we're in a very like Crossout centric format, so not only are we playing a lot of variety of answers, but people in general are playing a lot of variety of answers because they're also playing Crossout Designators, which then in turn kind of makes Crossout Designator better. It's kind of like feeds into itself that way. So all right, that's about all I've got to say for the deck right now. Let's go ahead and watch some gameplay. Okay, first replay, which is, I believe this was the first game of the new season for me as well. This is going to be up against Numerons. Like I said, we plan to play against quite a few Numerons, which does make sense to me. You tend to see more Numerons earlier in the season, as people tend to use it as a deck to quickly rank up. You also tend to see it like more towards the end of the season as well, if you're in, you know, lower ranks, because again, people will use it to rank up quickly. So I'm going to lead with a Tenki here, and I'll lead with a Fraktall. Basically, I'm just trying to see if they have an Ash here. I'm weirdly kind of using the Fraktall as Ash bait because I also have the Kerass and the Kitt in the hand, but no Ash from the opponent, so we'll just go ahead and do a fairly standard, like, Fraktall plus one other Tri-Brigade monster line to set up the DPE plus Revolt here. This was actually a game where, like, it kind of... Well, no, sorry, I'm thinking of a different game, because we do the droplet here. There was another game where I had a similar setup, and I was, like, kind of thinking of going for Appaloosa, and I think it was before I added... I think I did actually play a game or two before I added Appaloosa, and it kind of came up, and that was kind of like the final straw for me, now that I think about it. You'd think I would remember. This was only, like, 6 hours ago, but I have played quite a few games in those 6 hours. Yeah, we can go ahead and put Fraktall back because we're going to search it with Revolt anyway, and I'll go ahead and set everything. This is a little bit scary against, like, Lightning Storm or Feather Duster, but, you know, still, I think, best to set everything. So the first of many DPEs getting Kaiju'd here. Our opponent's going to go ahead and activate Numron Wall. I'm definitely glad I set everything here, as I can now use Called By in order to shut down this Numron Wall here. In order to prevent them from adding the network, of course. That's the main thing we always want to stop here. But of course, even if they do have other ways to get to the network, I've got a Revolt, and even if they stop the Revolt, I've got a Droplet, which should hopefully be enough. Well, I mean, will definitely be enough to keep me from losing outright this turn. So, yeah, so opponents' prosperity reveals were, I think, overall pretty good for me. Obviously, the Lightning Storm hurts because it's going to mean we're going to lose mainly our Droplet. Obviously, we can just chain Revolt. But as far as the other stuff they revealed, like, you know, this isn't really anything I'm too concerned about. So, and obviously, it isn't a network, which I'm fairly certain they don't have, given that they followed the Numron Wall with the prosperity. I would think if you had another way to search network, I guess you might still activate prosperity first. I don't suppose it... No, I think you'd probably want to search the network. I don't know, you can actually make an argument either way, like what order you'd want to activate that in, so... But still, I'm reasonably, fairly certain here that they don't have another way to get to network. Now, if they do, then I lose, but, but I mean, if they have it, you know, at that point. Definitely still right to chain Revolt there. They do have another Kaiju, this time it's a Lava Golem, but we do get a search from that because, and I actually did this on purpose, it's something I've been doing a little bit more often lately. If I have a Nervall left in the deck and I'm making a Shurig, if I can, sometimes I'll grab 3 from Banished and 1 Grave and then leave a Tri-type Banished, and then go for Shurig. That way if they answer the Shurig, then I can search a Nervall. It's, you know, pretty minimal commitment towards, like, leaving stuff banished, because, like, you could do it by leaving, like, 2 things engraved, and then you could get Nervall, Kitt, or Kerass, but then sometimes if you do that, you don't have enough tri-types for later, so, yeah, it's fairly low commitment play that can get you a little bit of advantage sometimes in situations like this, so. Alright, from here I'm actually, so, I draw the Ash return, right, and, you know, it prompts me to, or asking me if I want to activate Dasher's effect. I'm thinking about my opponent's board, and the fact they have no cards in hand, only 2 cards face down. I'm like, it's very unlikely for me to need Ash Blossom, and I would really like to go into access code without having to commit to my normal summon here. So yeah, I'll activate Dasher's effect, summon the Ash Blossom, and then, you know, I'll just go ahead and link everything on board right now into access code Talker to get rid of my opponent's back row again before committing my normal summon and attempting to go for game here. So. Yep, like I mentioned, we'll go ahead and access code, pop this face down, red reboot. We'll use it again and pop this other face down, which actually turns out to be Waking the Dragon, which I've never in my life seen this card before. But what a card it is. If it's set on the field and your opponent causes it to leave the field, then you can summon any monster from your deck or extra deck. This isn't very typical for Numrons to play, and seeing that it's a royal rarity, I imagine that's why my opponent is playing it in this deck. Yeah, I think this card came out like just after my time in the TCG. Like I said, I've never seen this card before in my life, but so here they get the Infinite track, but fortunately since we're playing the Zoodiac variant, we actually do have outs to it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to summon the Fraktall, banish 4 to get the Shurag out, right? Then I'll use Fraktall's effect. I won't use Kitt because I don't really have anything else I want to send. Just to get the Fraktall off the field so I don't take too much damage on my next turn. I'm then going to run the Shurag into the Infinite track to search out the Zoodiac to get rid of it next turn. And then of course we'll do a little bit of damage by attacking with access code as well. You know, since they have a monster on board, I know they can't OTK me if they top deck a network or something here. So I'm mostly just concerned about them mainly top decking like a good back row or a good hand trap here, but they don't set a back row and I do have a Crossout Designator, so I'm reasonably confident that the rest of this game is going to go fairly smoothly for me here. So again, we are fortunately playing the Zoodiac variant, and Infinite Track is affected by Xyz monsters, so we can just use Drident to go ahead and pop here. I'll then go into Boarbow, even though my opponent doesn't have anything on board, just in case, you know, you never know. Also attacking with Boarbow here, just in case this is a Numeron wall that they're saving in their hand to not get Zeus potentially here, so I'll definitely attack with the Boarbow to make sure we get the Zeus alive here. And then we'll just go ahead and pass back to our opponent, so at this point, they'll draw for turn, and funnily enough, they do actually rip the Numeron network here, but yeah, I'm obviously just going to go ahead and use Zeus's effect to blow up the board. And now, even if they have like another way to get Numeron network, they can't attack into my Zeus in a way that they can win, because, you know, 1,000 into 3,000, they take 2,000, double to 2,000, 2,000, 3,000, that's 3,000 total damage, and they lose. So, yeah, I'll just turn Zeus into attack mode here and smack them for game. I mean, I guess you could have argued that there wasn't really a way they could have Numeron networked for lethal anyway. I don't know. I didn't want to take a chance. I didn't know if their last card could have easily been limiter removal. That's how you say it. That card. It could have easily been that, which would have then caused me to lose. So I just didn't want to take any chances. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the next game here. So this game, interestingly, is going to be against like a Necroface Inferno Tempest style of mill deck. Yeah, I faced a lot of interesting decks, to say the least, at the beginning of my climb here in Season 6. So we're going to take the first turn, and what a hand this is. We open like a whole suite of hand traps in Fraktall and Lightning Storm. But then I was looking at this hand, and I thought, you know, this is actually, I think, one of those hands where it might be right to set up, use the one card Fraktall setup to get DPE plus Revolt instead of just Revolt. By discarding 2 cards with Boarbow, because yeah, like I was gonna say, I know I can definitely discard Lightning Storm. Like, yeah, you know, I'm going first, and I'm gonna be having cards on the board, like, you know, ideally. So this Lightning Storm in an ideal scenario is not gonna be doing anything. And then of course there's also the Ghost Spell as well, which, I mean, you know, is definitely the worst of these hand traps. And I think it's worth giving up the Ghost Spell, because basically, you know, like I said, I determined I wasn't really gonna need Lightning Storm. So the question became, is it worth it to get rid of Ghost Spell in order to set of DPE in addition to the Revolt? And when you think about it that way, it's like, I think that's a pretty obvious yes. So that's kind of how I determine whether or not I think it's worth it if I'm just using the one card Fraktall setup. If I want to, you know, go for Rugal plus Revolt and not discard 2 with Boarbow, or if I'm fine discarding 2 in order to go into DPE. It basically comes down to, like, you know, pick the worst 2 cards in your hand. Do you think those worst 2 cards are better than a DPE? And in this case, I saw Ghost Spell plus Lightning Storm, but then it also still factors in the rest of your hand, right? Like, if the rest of my hand had been, like, random tri-types or something, well, I mean, I could have gone for different combos, but, like, if the fact that my other 2 cards in hand were Maxx and Ash, like, definitely played in a factor as well as to what made me decide to discard the other 2 there. So it's just a case-by-case scenario. So yet again, we get KAIJU-ED here. My opponent then activates the Hippo Carnival, which, you know, I figure, okay, KAIJU plus Hippo Carnival, some kind of weirdness is going on here, but I can't imagine they'll be done special summoning at this point. So, I mean, even if they are, it's good to get the 1-for-1 when you can. So we'll just go ahead and fire off the Maxx right there in response to the good old Hippo Carnival. So during the end phase, we're going to go ahead and Revolt to get rid of one of the tokens to potentially OTK next turn. You know, obviously I'm going to get the search here, so now I can get a Tri-Brigade monster. I can banish a token now, this turn. I can banish a token on my next turn, and then between all the things I'll have on board, I'm like, there's no way I won't be able to do 8,000, unless my opponent has something like a you know, a Battle Fader or a Swift Scarecrow or like a Numeron wall or something. I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm pretty reasonably confident they're not playing Numerons, but especially against weird decks like this, you never know with the hand traps. Particularly against like decks that are playing lots of KAIJUs, you know, those are probably the most common decks in the meta right now that would have like battle-related hand traps. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and summon the Tri-Brigade, get a monster with it, the double Dragon Lords, and then it doesn't look like the opponent really has anything here, so we can just go ahead and smack them with their own Kaiju for lethal. So there is at least some satisfaction that if our DPEs are going to keep getting Kaiju'd here. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next game. Okay, this game is going to be against another Numeron deck, so yet another deck playing Kaijus and Lava Golems and the like. Yeah, I definitely think the uptick in decks like that does have to do with DPE becoming more prevalent. I mean, like I said, Numerons, people typically tended to play a lot of it at the beginning and the end of the season anyway, but the fact that DPE is so prevalent does in that way actually make the Numeron matchup, like, or the Numerons matchups overall, like, a little bit better in that regard. So there is kind of that to consider. It's definitely not an awful strategy if you just want to, like, rank up quickly and you don't really have another meta deck that you know very well to fall back on. I mean, yeah, Numeron can definitely be a very good strategy. But Numeron is also still, like any deck, like, it can be easy to think, like, oh, Numeron, I can kind of half-ass it a little bit. Okay, so actually I want to talk about this exchange real quick before I keep talking about Numeron. So my opponent activates the Magical Mallet here, right? And the fact that they ashed as well also definitely leads me to think they're playing Numerons, right? If it had just been Magical Mallet, I would think, like, okay, there's still a good chance it's Numerons, but it might still be, like, a weird OTK, FTK deck. And if I thought that was the case, I'd be a little bit more inclined to let the Mallet slide and ash something a little bit more decisive. But if I think it's Numerons, which again, my opponent played an Ash, which means it's probably not an OTK or FTK deck, and it probably is Numerons, then I want to go ahead and Mallet here, because if my opponent is activating Mallet now, they very likely don't really have any other good options in their hand, because Mallet's like a straight up -1. It's definitely like a last case scenario. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and Ash the Mallet here. Now my opponent does have to call by, so it's not going to end up resolving here, but I just want to talk about that. Why I ashed a Magical Mallet, which is a card you might typically be more inclined to let slide. And I kind of was a little bit too, but again, I want to explain why in this scenario specifically I did choose to negate it with Ash. And yet, once again, 3 games in a row now, our opponent is going to go ahead and get rid of our DPE with the Gamma Seal, or with the Kaiju here. I'm going to use the Almirage to get rid of the basically just to get rid of itself off the board, so I don't take any more extra damage here. Because I have the Imperm down, and because my opponent gave me a Gamma Seal, like, I know I can actually, like, get away without losing here, because yeah, I'm gonna Imperm the first Numeron. That's going to keep all of them at 1,000. The second's going to activate, but it'll bump up to 2, and then they can get bumped up to 4, but I'm going to only take 1,800 here instead of, you know, losing, which again is definitely ideal. Now, I should have actually used it on the number 1 here. I should have waited for them to attack with that first. So that way they couldn't have gotten this Chaos Gate here. Because, yeah, you know, leaving them with 3 does keep them from Appalooshing or Infinite Tracking, but ideally you want to keep them from getting the Chaos Gate as well. But not really that big of a deal. We're just gonna win this turn, so it's not gonna end up coming up. But yeah, in a perfect world, yeah, I would have impermed the number 1 instead. Although, I mean, there is also a world where, like, my opponent is playing around me getting their number 1. Well, I guess they attacked the second, so they really weren't. But, well, I mean, I also flipped the imperm, so they knew I didn't have a response. But there. You know, definitely don't cause yourself to lose by trying to negate the number 1, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, we have plays, we have draws, our opponent concedes. End of story. They know that they're going to, in fact, be losing this turn, and that Chaos Gate is not going to come up. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the next game. So this game is actually against another Necroface. I didn't realize I actually played against 2 of these, but this is against another Necroface Inferno Tempest deck. I wonder, because it's definitely not a bot, like, you know, the way the game plays out, and you'll see here, like, it's definitely not a bot playing, like, it's a person behind the deck. But yeah, I wonder if this kind of deck got, like, featured somewhere or something, and maybe became more popular as a result. I don't know, but yeah, as you can see, we definitely did not get a very good hand here. Like, very painful. No tri-types, Dasher, and Celestial. So That's really rough. Fortunately, my opponent didn't have anything either, so at this point I figured, like, okay, they just opened terribly, but I'll go ahead and normal Celestial here and battle, just start, you know, doing some damage. Even though it's going to cut me off from DPE, I figure with a hand like this, I'm probably not very likely to be able to get a DPE out anytime soon anyway. So, yeah, I battle for 16. My opponent even leads at the end. I'm going to go ahead and banish the Celestial and the Revolt again. I'm still thinking at this point, my opponent's probably playing, like, some kind of meta deck. They just got a really bad opening hand, so that's why I'm more inclined to keep the Droplet on the board. Had I known what I would be playing against, I definitely would have just sent the 2 back rows here and kept the Celestial on the board. Yep, my opponent's going to get to go here, and then I'll just pass right back to us. Very riveting game, like the semifinals of Hartford. And then, of course, I draw the Fusion Destiny, so I'm like, oh, that's nice. Now, here I said it as a bluff, but this actually, in hindsight, was not the right decision. Okay, so yeah, my opponent plays 1 day FP, so at this point, now I know they're playing some kind of stall or OTK or FTK deck. Which I was actually surprised to see this. I think this card is banned in the TCG. Maybe it's still at 1. I thought this card was banned at one point. I thought it was still banned, but it might just be legal in the OCG. I could have ashed this, but I ultimately decided that my hand was looking really bad, so I could actually benefit from this extra cycle. So I decided to let it resolve. And then I get a Fraktall, so that's pretty nice. And then, yeah, my opponent's just going to pass it back to me. So, yeah, now that I know they're playing more of a stall deck, there is a bit of a concern about, like, you know, maybe not doing the Fraktall line in the interest of, like, not getting my deck lower than theirs, just in case deck out is their strategy. But, you know, that's still, even though that actually it did end up being the case, that's still a very niche line to play around. And, you know, even though we are playing deck out deck, this does actually end up being the right play anyway to thin your deck and load up the graveyard here, because, and this kind of applies against, like, stun decks, anti-meta decks, any decks that are playing, like, a weird strategy. You don't want to play around it to a point where it's, like, detrimental to making your own plays, because, you know, first and foremost, we should be concerned about the ability to make plays, and then we should kind of be worried about our opponent's ability to stop plays. I mean, obviously, it's not always as black and white in that, as that. Oh, yeah, and then I actually make an Appaloosa here, because, you know, I realize, like, oh, I can't go for DPE plus Revolt, but I can still go for Appaloosa plus Revolt here, so. But yeah, like, you definitely just, you know, it's a balancing act like anything else, and we get KAIJU-ED again. I mean, it's not our DPE this time, but if we still had access to it, it would have been. This time it's our Appaloosa, but yeah, they'll set a monster in phase. I'm definitely flipping up the Revolt here, and going for my Shuri to banish this face-down monster, because at this point I'm thinking, like, it could be, like, it could be something weird, like, I don't know, I don't know why this is the first thing that comes to mind, but, like, a Morphing Jar number 2? I don't know. Back in the day, I played a lot of weird decks with Morphing Jar number 2, but I could still be the first Morphing Jar. I'm pretty sure it is still legal. I think it might actually be in this deck when I looked at the deck list just a moment ago, but it's a Swift Scarecrow, so I mean, I know that they've probably got another, like, a Battle Theta or another Swift Scarecrow or something in their hand, so you know, I'll go ahead and set up lethal here anyway, just in case they don't, but seeing them set one makes me inclined to think they've got another backup in hand, and sure enough, they do have a Battle Fader here, but that's ultimately going to be fine. I do actually attack with the strongest monster first, just in case it's like something like a Neuron Wall, where they take one hit and then they stop everything afterward. Yeah, opponent's going to activate Relinquished Anima here. I'll go ahead and use the Double Dragon Lord, sending my Fusion Destiny. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was actually a reason I wanted the Fusion Destiny in hand, but oh, I think it was to potentially use Boarbrum's effect there. But yeah, my opponent concedes as soon as my turn begins. I'm assuming they just don't have an out, like, to stop me from battling there, which would cause them to snap concede there, as I obviously have lethal already on board. Okay, I've got one more game for us to look at. Let us do so. Okay, final game for this video is going to be against Infernoids. So I was kind of right at the beginning. I actually, because I don't think I get KAIJU-ED this game. I did get KAIJU-ED 4 times, but it was only my DPE 3 times. It was my Appaloosa the 4th time. But anyway, yeah, we got the Kerass plus Kitt opening line here. So if you've seen my combo video before, which I should have linked in the description. I'm actually trying to remember if I set that up. If you only see one combo guide linked in the description, just yell at me in the comments to link the other one and I'll do it. There should be 2 linked there. You should see, like, what I call my ultimate Tri-Zoo combo guide, which is kind of more just like generic Tri-Brigade combos, but then I also have a combo guide for specifically setting up DPE plus Revolt. So Yeah, if you go ahead and check out that video, which again I should have linked in the description there, you can see how Kerass plus Kitt is, you know, DPE plus Revolt. And it's very good to you know, have those lines in mind, because it's good to be able to like look at your opening hand and immediately be able to figure out, okay, what can I make with this hand. Oh no, they did kaiju us, so I did get kaiju'd. My DPE did get kaiju'd 4 games here, and I got kaiju'd 5 out of 5. Well, I mean, obviously these are the 5 I chose to feature, but I mean, I got kaiju'd. I got kaiju'd in games outside of this as well, like playing against Nibiru too. So yeah, and then of course, as soon as I switched over to Sword Souls, like I kind of stopped seeing decks like this, but I decided to carry on playing Sword Souls a bit anyway. I don't know, like I said at the start of the video, I'm currently at Platinum 3, about 6 hours into the season right now. I might switch back over to Tri-Zoo after I stop my little break that I'm taking to record these videos here. I got kaiju twice in the same turn, look at that. I saw that list, I saw Infernoids, and I thought, okay, Infernoids don't play too many kaijus, do they? But nope, clearly it's just kaiju central over here. So, you know, like I kind of touched on earlier, it does pay to think about decks like Numeron, like Infernoids, like this weird, you know, Necroface deck we've come across a couple of times. Like, you know, decks that can get away with kaijus a lot, playing lots of kaijus are obviously, you know, very much better right now, but than they would be normally. But you know, that's not to say that it's not gonna completely stop the decks that run DPE. As we saw here, there were 5 games where, you know, well, I guess technically 4 games where our DPE specifically got kaiju'd, but 5 games where we got kaiju'd and then recovered just fine. So even though kaiju is running around a lot this format, don't let that necessarily discourage you from playing the deck. It's still, you know, you can still play out of it, you know, relatively easily. All right, let's go ahead and take one last look at the deck before we end the video here. All right, everybody, I want to thank you as always very much for watching this video, especially to the very end like this. I do greatly appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, like I touched on at the beginning of the video, I am going to be taking a little bit more, not very much more, but a little bit more of a laid-back approach to laddering this season. That said, I don't want, like, you know, the whole first 2 weeks of the season to just be like Tri-Zoo and Sword Soul replays as I'm climbing. So I'll still try to keep the videos like fairly condensed. In a perfect world, I'll do like a total of 4 videos for the climb, right? Like 2 each for Tri-Zoo and Sword Soul, 1 each, one of each deck in like Platinum, and then 1 of each deck playing them in Diamond. But we'll just have to see how the climb ends up panning out. This is actually going to be one of the more difficult climbs for me, I think, and I was kind of thinking about this in the last week leading up to the season because, generally speaking, you know, like I touched on in the beginning of the video, in order to address IRL stuff and prevent burnout, I've been playing Master Duel overall a little bit less frequently than normal lately. Obviously, you guys are still going to get daily videos, but and I'm still going to be playing quite a bit, but a little bit less frequently than I have in the past. And not only that, but also like we're playing with decks, or I'm playing with decks that I'm less experienced with than other decks I've laddered with in the past. You know, like with Tri-Zoo, and I'd ladder with that. I had experience in that meta with that style of build, you know, for like seasons upon seasons. Well, I mean, not that many, but you know what I mean. And now we're playing with new Tri-Zoo builds and new decks, and so like playing them and playing against them, playing with and against them is still a bit of a learning curve for me. But yeah, I still like I said, I would still like to make it up in good time, and also still put out like a decent amount of gameplay videos without bogging you guys down. So that's kind of my plan for the beginning of this season at this time. So yep, I think that's about all I've got to say now. Without further ado, thank you very much for watching. This is Hexlex, signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.